core strength can be likened to the ability of the trunk muscles to keep your posture and alignment optimal while your arms and legs move around. That's a really simplistic definition of core strength. So what the core muscles really need to do is make sure that our body's nice and straight whenever we're performing movements with our arms and legs. And that's very important, particularly when it comes to recreational activities like golf, tennis, soccer. We want to make sure that our arms and legs are moving from a solid foundation. Many liken this to the analogy that you cannot fire a cannon from a canoe. One of the leading causes of lower back pain is weak core muscles. And particularly when if you undergo activities where there's high stress, high impact stress to the body, like running for example, that runners can suffer lower back pain simply because their core muscles aren't firing as their foot hits the ground. And every time you run, you can get a large amount of body weight forces coming back up through the kinetic chain. So the importance of core strength is that it helps optimise force transfer through the body. If those core muscles are getting weak and they're not being continually challenged and trained, and you are required to do something physical, if those spinal structures aren't locked in by those core muscles at that time that you undergo, such as lifting up a box, it's at that key moment that you might sustain an injury. So yes, core strength is important, and it does require the ongoing training and practice to maintain, not just for sport, but for life as well. Well, I think most people, when they think core, they might think of yoga, they might think of Pilates, and these are great ways to train your core, and they often involve a range of exercises that focus in on getting the muscles of the trunk to fire, and then once those muscles are turning on and doing the things they should, progressively challenging them by moving your arms and legs in various movement patterns or holding certain postures. All of these are great examples of how to train the core. But probably one activity that's not well known is that any movement or combat sport where there's a requirement to move your arms and legs away from your centre mass actually requires the core muscles to fire and fire quite vigorously. Because if those core muscles don't fire when you move your arms and legs, like in throwing a punch or kicking technique, you'll experience a period of instability in your spine. In any punching or kicking technique, one of the key components of these techniques is the ability to rotate the trunk quickly, vigorously. Because without that rotation of the trunk, the ground reaction forces that start at the foot and have to make their way up through the body, through to the arm, and then eventually to the fist or the foot, have to do so by bypassing the core. So you can think of the core as a bridge. So every time someone throws a punch or a kick, they are requiring high levels of core muscle activation and quickly. So just about every time you punch or kick, you're requiring those core muscles to engage in a vigorous, fast contraction, which in time can lead to an improvement in core strength. So we're essentially dealing with two things. We've got the postural requirements, which we train when we stand in a boxing or kickboxing stance, and we have to keep ourselves well balanced before we deliver a strike. So that involves static core contraction. But then when we deliver the strike, we transfer from static to dynamic. This is where we develop that explosive core power and that explosive core strength.